Ghovardhan Katha in short, just so that you have a better understanding, or at least a reminder as to what the day is about. So Ghovardhan, many of you heard this name. It's a mountain, or it's a hill by now, in the Braj area of India. Braj is the general Vrindavan area. Gokul, Barsana, Vrindavan, Mathura, Govardhan. This is generally called the Braj area. This is where Bhagavan Sri Krishna performed most of his pastimes, at least as a younger, from the time he was born up until, when he moved to Dwarika. So the Govardhan hill is there for those of you who have gone to India, and for those of you who haven't gone. Whenever you go to visit the Govardhan hill, you'll see it there. It would be better for you to have a tour guide when you go there, because if you go alone, then you'll not be able to come in close contact. You would be walking on the periphery. But if you go with a tour guide, you can walk very close to the mountain. You'll be able to touch it, etc. So the Govardhan mountain, when Bhagavan Sri Krishna, there's a Katha in the Garga Samhita and other places in the scriptures, that when Bhagavan Sri Krishna says to Radharani that we have to now go on this planet and perform our leelas, then Radharani said, of course, but I want to ensure that there are some things there, namely the Yamuna river. I want to ensure the Yamuna is there on earth where we're going. I want to ensure the Govardhan is there, among other things. So what this serves to inform us right off the bat is that the Govardhan and the Yamuna, these are all devotees, or they are all expansions of Sri Krishna that came from Golok Dham, Golok Vrindavan, Bhagavan's own abode. And he has put them here on earth. He has extracted a Govardhan from the Govardhan in Golok and has put it on earth. And so he replied to Radharani that don't worry, that both the Yamuna and the Govardhan are already on earth. And they are ready. So when Bhagavan says this, then he was telling Radharani that the Govardhan is already there, but the Govardhan was actually in the Himalaya area, right? Came as a child by the father of the Govardhan, the name of Durnachal. And so the Govardhan was there, but we know the Govardhan to be in Braj area, right? In Uttar Pradesh, I think this is. The interesting thing with the Govardhan, as you drive around the Govardhan, it's just about 22 kilometers all around, so probably 8 or so on one side. Interestingly, you would step into 2 or 3, at least 2 Indian states, so it's like kind of on the border. Rajasthan and another one, I think. Anyways, so there's this great rishi, you may have heard his name Pulastya Muni. So Pulastya Muni was traveling in the Himalaya area, and he saw this most beautiful mountain. This was the Govardhan mountain, and he thought that, where I'm doing my tapasya, these munis are very powerful, right? These yogis, very powerful. And so he saw this mountain and thought, where I'm doing my tapasya, I live in Varanasi, we call Banaras, or Kashi. That is where he does his tapasya. And he said, there's no beautiful mountain like this over there. If I take this mountain, it will be able to, will help me in my tapasya. So he made an arrangement with the father of Govardhan. And he says, I want to take this mountain with me to Varanasi. So reluctantly, the father agreed, but Govardhan, he made a condition. When he realized that the Govardhan, that the rishi was going to take him, he says, look, you can take me with you, but I have a condition, and that is that if you put me down anywhere, I'll stay there. I won't move. Wherever you put me down first, that's where I'll stay. So the rishi said, fine, no problem. So the mountain, the Govardhan, was huge. But these saints, these rishis and munis, they have tremendous mystical powers. And so he was able to lift the Govardhan mountain by his yogic powers. and now he's walking towards Varanasi. But bear in mind here that the Govardhan mountain came into the world only to assist and to serve Sri Krishna in his leelas, in his divine pastimes, right? That's the purpose of the Govardhan. But also to perform this part of the leela. And I'll tell you what part. So Pulastya Muni lifting the mountain and walking towards Varanasi. When he got into the Braj area with all his yogic powers, he has tremendous control. Yogis are able to forget that they're the body. They don't even know and realize that they're the body. Give no importance to the body at all. But when he got into the Braj area, something happened. And what happened is that he had this urgent call, a call of nature. An unbearable urge, to respond to the call of nature. He had to respond, and so he put the Govardhan down. And then a few minutes after, he came back, tried to lift it, and the Govardhan would not move. He tried as hard to use all his yogic powers, the Govardhan would not move. Why? Because the Govardhan came to perform leelas with Sri Krishna, and this is where it was supposed to be. So the Rishi, Pulastya, got very upset, and he said, if you think that you're so powerful, that you're so many miles in size and height, and that you're too powerful for me, I'll teach you a lesson. I curse you today that from today onwards, every single day, you will reduce in size. You reduce by 1 mustard grain in size every day. So bear in mind here, this was in Satyug, right? In Satyug, the Govardhan mountain was about 2 miles high, and then got a curse by Pulastya Muni that you will reduce in size. And now if you go to the Govardhan, you will see that at the highest peak, it's about 80 feet or so, 80 feet in height. It's still very long, a few kilometers long, as they say in India, a few miles long. But the highest peak is about 80 feet. And so that's because of a curse that he got by Pulastya Muni to reduce in size, because Pulastya Muni was very disappointed that he wasn't able. So while Pulastya Muni was very upset and cursed the mountain Govardhan was laughing and felt very fulfilled that now, where I am, I'm able to fulfill the purpose for which I came to earth. So how did Govardhan serve Bhagavan Sri Krishna? Let's look at the words of Bhagavad Mahapuran as we go through the Katha in brief. Bala Mukunda Jai Nanda Lala Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Bala Mukunda Jai Nanda Lala Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Bala Mukunda Jai Nanda Lala Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Jai Gopala Jai Gopala Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Jai Gopala Jai Gopala Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Oh Bala Mukunda Jai Nanda Lala Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Bala Mukunda Jai Nanda Lala Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Katyatam me pita koyam sambramo va upagata. King phalam kasya vedeshaha kena va sadhyate makha. Bala Mukunda Jai Nanda Lala Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Bala Mukunda Jai Nanda Lala Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. Krishna Kanhaiya Jai Gopala. So this is the 10th canto, 24th chapter, verse 3. Bhagavad Mahapuran here tells us that Kathayang me pita koham, that Bhagavan Sri Krishna, he was just about 6 years old, just we say 6 years, meaning he has completed 6 years old, 6 years, and he observed that his father, his foster father, Nanda Maharaj, Nanda Baba, and all the rest of the people of Nandagaon were very, very busy. They're preparing a puja. Bhagavan Sri Krishna at 6 years old, he's watching and he's trying to figure out what they're doing. So he decided to ask his father. He said that what is going on here? What is this puja for? That explained to me. He was asking it, explain to me all this preparation. What is happening? What is it about? What is it meant for? And based on what you're doing, what are you trying to accomplish? In the same way that a child, at 6 years old, sees something strange and doesn't know what's happening and asks the parents what's happening. So he's asking a very detailed question. That Baba, is this a ritual? Is this a puja that you're going to perform? And if it is a puja, then for whose satisfaction is this puja intended? And how are you going to execute this puja? How is it meant to be performed? Sri Krishna, being, just 6 years old, didn't understand what's happening. And so Indradev now he finds it necessary. He was a little bit surprised that Krishna at 6 years old is asking such a detailed question. Why is everyone so busy? What are you doing? What are all these preparations for? It looks like it's a sacrifice, a puja. If it is a puja, who is it for? And if it's a puja, when you finish it, what would you accomplish? How would you be able to get it done properly, and what would you accomplish by doing it? So a loaded question is asked by little Kanhaiya. And so now Nanda Baba has to respond. This is his response to little Krishna. Sri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. Sri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. 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 Sri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. Sri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. Purajanyo Bhagavan Indro Mega Sasyatma Murtaya Te Vivarshanti Bhutanam Priyanam Jivanam Paya. Sri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. Kanhaiya Lal ki jai. This is the 24th chapter now. This is the 8th verse. That Nanda Baba, Sri Nanda Uvach, he's explaining now to Kanhaiya. He says, look, Kanhaiya, that Parajanyo Bhagavan Indro. Indra is the king of heaven. Indra is the lord of rain. Indra is the one who Bhagavan has appointed to control rain. For us human beings, we know that the god of rain is Indra. Indra, when we do Havan Indraya Namah Swaha. So, Nanda Baba is explaining to Kanhaiya that because Indra controls the rain, it means that the clouds are his personal representatives. The clouds, when you see the rain clouds, when the rain clouds are set, these are like servants of Indra. Because the clouds represent, or they directly provide rainwater. What does this water do? This water gives happiness and sustenance to all creatures. And he goes on further to explain to Sri Krishna that, my son, that not only, myself or the few people you see here, that everyone worships Indra. That so many people, they worship him. Because he's the Lord and the Master of the rain-giving clouds. And so what happens when we perform this puja and we make offerings to Indra, then he accepts these offerings that we make, and he continues to send rain clouds so that rain can fall. And when rain falls, vegetation grows, and mainly the grass will grow, because the main line of business in Braj was rearing cows, right? Remember, Nanda Baba alone had 9 lakh cows. A lakh is 100,000. He had the most cows, but everyone had cows there in the Braj area, in Brajdham. So he's explained to Krishna that because of this rainwater, the grass is always kept green and healthy so that the cows can graze. And as a result of that, the cows stay healthy and they give a lot of milk. Because water is so necessary. In philosophy, we learn that water is called jal. Water is called by many names. Pani, apaha in Sanskrit. It's also called jal, many other names. But the philosophical part of jal is that this water is sustenance. Water sustains life. Why? Because the ja, you see, in the Hindi alphabet, every letter, or Sanskrit alphabet, every letter has a meaning. So the letter here, ja, means janma. It forms the word janma, which means life. And without water, there can be no life. But also without water, there can be no birth. As a matter of fact, jivan, the word ja forms the word jivan, which means life. But it also forms the word janma, which means birth. As we know that a fetus cannot be formed without being present in water. And so water is a giver of life, ja as in janma, and ja as in jivan, water is also the sustainer of life. So Kanhaiya is listening to his father, to Nanda Baba, explaining the importance of water, and because of the importance of water, that they need to worship Lord Indra, without which there will be no water, not only for the cows, to enjoy sustenance, but for them to be healthy and to give milk so that everyone can be happy. And so Kanhaiya listened carefully, and then he decided to speak. These were the words of Kanhaiya. Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana, Gopi Jan Jivana, Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana, Gopi Jan Jivana, Radha Ramana, Radha जन जीवना राधा रमना ओ गोपी जन जीवना राधा रमना गोपी जन जीवना राधा रमना. Sri Bhagavan Ovacha, the 13th verse of the 24th chapter. Bhagavan Sri Krishna decides to speak, and he is explaining now to Nanda Baba, to his father. Now this is a little bit philosophical, but we would not go into the philosophy today. So he says, Baba, karmana jayate jantu. So here karmana, we know what that word means. It means karma. Karmana jayate. Jayate means birth. So he says to his father that, Father, it is by the force of karma only that a living being takes birth. That is why, as a part of the law of karma, not only Hindus believe, but 30% of the West also believe that there is such an entity called karma. In Sanatana Dharma, we believe when Sri Krishna says karmana jayate jantu, that a person is only born as a result of his karma. What does this mean? It means that a child is born to a particular set of parents at a particular time, at a particular place, for a particular reason. It is only by karma that a person is born. So this is not a random exercise. So this is how that aspect of karma applies to our lives, with our children, etc. So we'll not go into further details, but karmana jayate jantu, karmanaiva praliyate. Jantu, as we said, a living being. Praliyate means destruction. It is by karma alone that he meets his destruction also. The word eva is used here. Karma naiva means karma and eva. Eva means only. So karma naiva praliyate. Only by his karma he meets his destruction. Further, Kanthaya says here, Sukham dukam bhayam kshemam karma naiva vipadyate. Sukham and dukham, those words are simple, we all know that. Our happiness and our unhappiness is also caused by our karma. Now, there's a fine line here, this can be misconstrued. Remember, karma also means your actions. So the actions you perform will determine whether you're happy or you're unhappy. So, sukham dukham bhayam kshemam. So Kanthaya went into great details, and he's saying to his father that, Baba, you know, all this explanation that you're giving me here, it's okay, it makes sense. But Kanthaya now at 6 years old is giving to his father a greater, a deeper, a more realistic and rooted philosophy in Sanatana Dharma. How things happen, and that they happen by the laws of karma. Now bear in mind here, before we close our katha, that if we just go this word karma and we understand it on its face, it is very simple for us to become fatalistic. It is very simple for us to become deterministic, thinking that we have to do nothing in life, everything is karma. That's farthest from the truth. Why? Because there's another thing that we have come with. When we've gotten this human body by Bhagavan based on karma, we came with something else, and it's called what? Free will. We have something called free will, and that is what determines whether we'll be happy or miserable here in this life. Some things cannot be changed. That is our karma, when we were born, etc. You know, the other one is when we'll die. That cannot be changed. Those are 2 of 5 things. Not going to go into that either. If we start going into this philosophy, it will take us a long time, right? But just to set the stage here, to give slightly better understanding as to what this is, there are three types of karmas, right? One is called sanchit karma, the other one is called prarabdha karma, and the other one is, there are many names for it, right? We call it agami karma, we call it prayasit karma, we call it kriyaman karma. Don't get confused. So the first one, in simple, the first one is sanchit karma. What does that mean? Sanchit karma means the accumulated karmas of our past many lives. Remember, Bhagavad Gita tells us that we've been here many, many times, countless times. Krishna is telling Arjuna. He said, Arjuna, you can't remember, but I remember them all. So we've been here uncountable time and we've accumulated karma. That karma is stored with Bhagavan. A huge bundle of karma is called sanchit. When Bhagavan is ready to give us this human birth again, he takes a portion of this huge bundle and he gives it to us as John or as Ramesh or Mary, whatever the name is. Now you take this and you go. That karma, this bundle, this portion out of the bigger bundle of karma, which is sanchit, this amount is now called the prarabdha karma. That is what we come with in this life. In that karma determines when and where we'll be born, how long we'll live, what our lifespan is, etc. So that's our prarabdha karma. In that prarabdha, there are 5 things that you cannot change, and there is free will, meaning that we can change things for the future births, plus we can choose, we can act to live happily in this life, regardless of the things that cannot be changed. We can still be happy, providing we follow the right philosophy and we apply them into our lives. So the third one is called agami. This is the punya and the papas, the sins and the blessings that we've acquired and accumulated in past lives. These will be fructified in the next life also. Something is called prayaschit karma. Prayaschit karma is generally actions that we perform. Sometimes it's not so applicable in the age of Kali Yuga, but in other ages, we do something wrong. There's a prayaschit karma you can do to mitigate those sins. There's a certain puja, there's a certain part of the scripture you can read, there's a certain tapasya you can do to mitigate those sins. Most of those are not applicable today because of the age we live in. However, that is prayaschit karma. Prayaschit karma can also be seen as your puja. The puja that we do, this is actions. Those actions will bear fruit. So that's prayaschit karma. Sometimes we also call it kriyaman. It means the same thing. Kriya means actions, right? So in short here, actions performed by oneself is what creates a person's different conditions of experience, or of their experience and existence in life. And based on what we use our free will for now, it will determine whether we're happy or not happy now, plus purva janma kritam papam taradaivam iti khatyate. Remember we discussed that a few weeks ago? Purva janma, that the actions that we perform in our last life becomes destiny, bhagya, in our next life, right? We can stop the cycle now, or if we don't stop it, what we do now, in the same way that we've come with 5 things that cannot change, that is because of what we have done in the last life. In the same way, next time we come, there will be 5 things that cannot be changed based on what we do in this life. And that determines to what parents and where in the world you'll be born. When you'll be born, is it in Satyug to enjoy, is it in Kali Yuga to suffer? Is it to rich parents, where you're born with, as they say, privileged? Or are you born to a set of parents where you cannot even get 1 square meal when the day is up? Where a child dies before he or she is 1 year old because of of starvation. This might be harsh reality, but these are all the effects of karma. This karma that we perform now can bind us or free us. If we perform karmas that are correct and we perform them in the right way, karmas can free us from this bondage of the sansar, going and coming. Mahabharata helps us to understand avashyameva bhoktavyam kritam karma shubha shubham, that we have to avashya bear the benefits and the penalties of our actions. Kritam karma shubha shubham, shubh and ashubh karma, good and bad karma. No one can stop us from undergoing this is cause and effect. Essentially, that's what it is. The cause is our karma, the effect is, the effect is the result of the karma, whether we become happy or sad or our situation is terrible, etc., etc. So one has to reap the rewards of their benefits. So we just want to not go not too much into more details today, but let's just remember that, karma causes bondage. When you're attached to the fruits, in short, this is Bhagavad Gita. When we're attached to the fruits of our actions, that causes karma. Just to wrap up our Katha for today, so we understand what causes karma. Not necessarily the actions we perform, but whether we're attached to the fruits of the action or not, that causes karma. Karma is not caused by the actions per se. Let's use a very short and applicable example. If you're cooking food, Bandara, to feed 100 people, then that's a good thing, right? Cook a whole lot of food to feed 100 people. But let's say in that same food, you put some poison in it. You're still cooking food. Cooking is a blessing to feed people. But you put poison inside, aren't you still feeding people? So is it not supposed to be a blessing? But it's not, because the intent. You're cooking this food for someone. You've decided to put poison inside. Whether these people eat the food or not, whether they eat it and die or don't eat it, you will reap the penalties of that mental action of putting poison in the food because you want to kill people. It's not anymore that you're cooking food. It's that what you intended to do. That is what causes karma, your mindset. That's why we hear, Gandhi says, Bhagavad Gita says, Gandhi says as well, non-violence in thoughts, words and actions. So non-violence is not only in actions, it's in thoughts as well, because that is what. So Krishna has given us a recipe as to how to prevent causing good or bad karma. What does he say? Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, verse 47, chapter 2. That perform your actions. Adhikaraste, that your right is to perform actions. However, ma phaleshu kadachana, to give the rewards of those actions, you have no control over, and I would give the rewards of those actions when I think you need it most, in whatever form you need it most, and when you need it most. So if we know that, it makes it so much easier for us to perform an action and just don't have the result. Oh, what is in it for me? Why should I do this? Why should I not do this? Perform the action. It's a good action. You mean well. Whatever the results, let it be. You can't control the results, so don't worry about it. But if you cling on to the results, even though you have no control, then it forms karma. How simple is that? Dalai Lama says, if you don't worry if you have control over something, and don't worry if you don't have control over it. What does that mean? If you have control over something, take control, don't worry. And if you don't have control over something, don't worry, because you can't control it anyway. Us as human beings, we cannot control the effects of our karma. This is in Ma Phaleshu Kadachana. Bhagavan says, this is my role, not yours. So don't worry about the results, because they'll form karma. And if it's a bad thing, you'll get bad karmas for it. And if it's a good thing, you will still get the benefits for it, but Bhagavan will decide when. Sometimes we say, oh my God, I got this thing done by the skin of the teeth. I was so lucky. I barely escaped this accident. Oh my God, I could have fallen there. I barely saw the... There's no barely. There's no luck. Everything in a person's life is divya. That is according to Sanatan philosophy. Divya means divine. This is when Bhagavan comes in and gives us the reward of an action that we may have performed. This is when we need it most, so he helps us out. Life goes on normally, but if we had gotten into that situation, life would have changed the way we know it. Anyways, let's close here. We can, this can take us a long time. So we must realize that the activities that we perform are a result of our thoughts, right? And if you're attached to the fruits of your actions, you can form bad karma. Karma can become bondage, but karma proves to be, or can prove to be, the gateway to freedom if the mind is attached to God. When you perform your actions, attach the mind to God, you will bear no negative karma. And the good ones, you will still get. So by now we understand, and like the British philologist said, William Jones, says that law of karma is what binds us to the doctrine of reincarnation. This is a modern person, right? The law of karma is what binds us to the doctrine of reincarnation. What did we say? Reincarnation means us, right? We reincarnate. God doesn't reincarnate. God descends. Human being reincarnates. We come again. We just give up this coil and we take another one. We come again. Same soul. So that's reincarnation. Bhagavan descends. God doesn't reincarnate. So the British philologist is saying that it is the law of karma that causes us to be born. This is, a modern Western person. But like we said in the beginning, karmana jayate jantu. This is what causes birth, when and how and to whom, etc. So in conclusion here, we can say that the fruits of our actions carried forward is what is called destiny. Right? Because remember we said that the fruits of our actions, if we take those forward, that will form destiny. Remember we said that purva janma kritam papam, purva janma. The last one causes this one, and this one will cause the next one. So that's the fruits of our actions. That's why some people say sometimes, they tell you that show me your company, I'll tell you who you are. In karma, they say, look at their actions, and I'll tell you what your future would look like. Because based on your actions, what your future will be. So essentially, products of the past, purva janma, are the producers of the future. Now, if you want to know more about karma, we discussed this a few months ago. I think somewhere in our the foundation's Facebook page, or maybe on YouTube, in the foundation's YouTube channel. If you go there and look for, I think it's labeled as karma. I don't want to go any further today. We said we'll have a shortened session today because karma is such a tremendous topic that you can go into great details. We have gone into some more details in a Katha a few months ago. So go to the YouTube thing, look for the one that says karma. You'll be able to have some more information there. And of course, like always, if you have any question, we have an email address there. You can write to us because we don't want to go further into philosophy today. We just want to end the Katha here. So what happened? Because Bhagavan Sri Krishna he instructed Nanda Baba, he gave Nanda Baba all these instructions that, look, don't worship this Indra, that because Nanda Baba was explaining to him that, look, all these cows, they go to the Govardhan and they graze, and they all become happy, they give a lot of milk. If we don't get any rain, then the Govardhan will not get any grass. The cows will not be able to eat, and the whole chain action will not happen. So Kanhaiya says, at 6 years old, he says, Baba, so if it is a mountain that the cows are grazing on, why didn't you just worship the mountain? You just told me that the cows graze on the mountain. This has nothing to do with Indra. That is, if the mountain is not there to grow all this grass, then the cows wouldn't have anywhere. So Kanhaiya is using some philosophy. Nanda Baba says, that makes sense, you're probably right. So Kanhaiya now telling his father that, look, I have an idea. Why don't we just worship the mountain? Now, we're not reading any more verses from the Katha, right? We're just concluding the Katha like this. So Nanda Baba decided that makes sense. And because he was the ruler of the village, he went and he told everybody that, look, today, what we're going to do is honor the mountain instead. Not Indra, because without this mountain, there will be no grass where the cows graze. All this lush green grass. Because Krishna encouraged him that let's be grateful, let's show gratitude to the mountain that has been, giving grass to all these cows. And he says, well, how do we do that? Krishna says, well, just go and do your puja to the mountain. Just take all the food that you offer and give it to the mountain. Nanda Baba says, okay, we can do that, but how would a mountain eat? Kanhaiya says, I assure you, Baba, I assure you that mountain is living, it's an entity, it's not just a mountain. That feed the mountain, I assure you that a mountain will eat. So further into the Katha, Nanda Baba went with all the people, they prepared, lots and lots of food. The gopis and all the residents of Braj, they prepared, cartloads of food, and they went to the mountain and they offered all their food to the mountain. And that's why this day is also called Ankut, right? An means food. Ankut means a mountain of food. So today still people still make, 51 or 54 dishes, and people make 108 dishes or hundreds of dishes to replicate what happened on this day 5,000 years ago. They took all these cartloads of food to the mountain, and to their pleasant surprise, something happened. What happened? Just to make one more point, today is also called, people call it Chappan Bhog, right? Chappan Bhog. Nothing's wrong with that. But Chappan Bhog is something else. Chappan Bhog means 56 different delicacies, but this was prepared by Duryodhan when he invited Krishna to go eat at his house. That is where this term Chappan Bhog came from. That's 56, but in Ankut it's not 50, it can be 56, nothing is wrong with 56, but just for information's sake. Ankut is loads of food. To their pleasant surprise, as they're offering the food to the mountain is eating all the food. The food keeps disappearing. When they looked up, what did they see? They look up like, what's happening? How is this mountain? Oh, Krishna was right. And they looked up, Kanhaiya himself became the mountain. He manifested in this huge blue form, and he's sitting there in the mountain as they offer the food. Krishna is eating all the food. So this is the offering that they made. Kanhaiya took all the food because the mountain came to serve Sri Krishna. And so this is where Kanhaiya got the name Giriraj. Giriraj Maharaj. It's another name for Sri Krishna. Giri means mountain, that he is the Govardhan mountain. There's something that happened after that, and in short what happened is that Indra got upset. when he knew that he's not getting this offering and someone else has taken this offering. So he said, I'll teach them a lesson. All of a sudden they stopped worshipping me. And then Indra got his most powerful clouds, Megha, and he sent down buckets and buckets of rain in the whole Braj area. The whole Braj area was flooded. No one could have even stayed in their houses. They told Sri Krishna, look what you have done. You have encouraged us to do this. Look what Indra is doing now. He said, don't worry. All of you follow me. And they all followed Kanhaiya. He went to the Ghovardhan mountain and he lifted it up. He held it on his small finger of his left hand. And he held the mountain there for 7 long days. And all the gopis and all the residents of Braj, they were taking shelter. They were even happy and having more fun because now they could have all been together all the time, day and night for 7 days. But as Krishna's little friends, they're looking and they're seeing Kanhaiya, in a very carefree manner holding up the mountain. They're thinking, oh, this chap is, he's just showing off here and this mountain will fall and crush all of us. They're thinking like that. So, remember that little dhun that we sing? All the gopis now, the Gwals, Krishna's little friends, the male friends especially, they all got little sticks, because they're young, right? Choti choti lakuti. They all took little pieces of stick, and if you look at the photograph, they're taking the stick and pressing it towards the mountain. They're trying to help Sri Krishna hold the mountain up so it doesn't fall. And they don't know this is Bhagavan, that he can hold it there forever. But this is, how it's what they were doing. Taking little pieces of stick and doing this. Choti choti lakhuti, chote chote haat, bansi bajave mero Madan Gopal. Choti choti lakuti, choti choti haat, in their small hands. Gaiye. Choti choti gaiya, chote chote gwa. Choti choti gaiya, chote chote gwa. Choto somero Madan Gopal. Ho, choto somero Madan Gopal. Choti choti gaiya, chote chote gwa. Choti choti gaiya, chote choto so mero Madan Gopal. Ho, choto so mero Madan Gopal. Choti choti lakuti, chote chote haat. Choti choti lakuti, chote chote haat. Bansi bajave mero Madan Gopal. Ho, bansi bajave mero Madan Gopal. Ho, beech mein mero Madan Gopal. Ho, beech mein mero Madan Gopal. Gaiye choti choti gaiya, chote chote gwa. Choti choti gaiya, chote chote gwa. Choto somero Madan Gopal. Ho, choto somero Madan Gopal. Remember when they started worrying? He told all of them, don't worry, come behind me. And they all followed. Aage aage gaiya, piche piche gwal. Aage aage gaiya, piche piche gwal. Beech mein mero Madan Gopal. Oh, beech mein mero Madan Gopal. Choti choti gaiya, chote chote gwal. Choti choti gaiya, chote chote gwal. Choto so mero Madan Gopal. Oh, choto so mero Madan Gopal. Oh, choto so mero Madan Gopal. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. So Kanhaiya held the mountain up for 7 days. All the gopis and gopis, all the cows and everything, when they're under the mountain, they were very safe there for 7 days. And so the point Kanhaiya made here, to lift the mountain up, to tell the gopis and tell his father to go perform to be grateful to the mountain is that, and the reason why he held it up for 7 days to teach Indra a lesson, right? Indra had a lot of pride. Remember, he is the god. We say God loosely. He is the Devata, the celestial being who controls the rain. But he also had too much pride, right? Only Bhagavan doesn't have pride. Celestial beings, the Devatas, they also have pride because those are material planets, but they're hundreds and hundreds of times happier than where we live. We did that Katha a few weeks ago. How does that work? So Indra had pride, and Bhagavan wanted to cut his pride. That if you think you're so powerful and you control rain, that let me show you that you don't really have control over rain, because only Bhagavan controls things, not the Devatas. He gives them, like we have ministers in the government, secretaries in the government, a portfolio to administer. But the Minister of Agriculture or the Secretary of Agriculture never thinks that he's the president of the country, right? He knows his limits, but Indra didn't. Indra got lost in his pride, and Bhagavan had to remind him. Also because it says in Bhagavad Gita, we'll read it another time, that, you know, when we think that we have gotten something from the Devatas because we've prayed to the Devatas, Bhagavad Gita tells us very, very clearly in chapter 7 and verse 22 that when you would have gotten something because of your tapasya, because of your puja, because of your havan, because of your prayers, and when you think that is because of the Devatas, that the Devatas can only grant gifts to devotees that are sanctioned by Bhagavan. The same example I used just now, like a minister and the president. The president has to sanction things. The ministers, they have limitations. In the same way, the Devatas can only give things that are gotten a green light from Bhagavan. This is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 22, verse 7. Right? So this is why they worship the Ghovardhan, because Ghovardhan means nourishment. So when we have Ghovardhan in our mind, Go means cows. Vardhan is what nourishes the cows. It is the Govardhan that nourishes the cows. Because Bhagavan sent the Govardhan so that the cows can be happy. From Golok Dham, and Indra is just doing his duty. So Krishna was right when he says to Nanda Baba that it is not really Indra. Indra is just performing his duty. If the secretary, if the minister doesn't perform his duty, what happens to him? He gets fired. Right? And another one comes in. Same thing with the Devatas. The Devata is not one person. We have become Devatas. We have been Devatas before. We just cannot remember. A celestial being is an evolved soul. This is philosophy as well, another time. But the name stays, Indra stays, the entity, the person is always different. Indra has a lifespan as well. So they're working within limitations, but Sri Krishna sent Govardhan on earth for the cows to be happy, and this is why he was trying, this is what he was trying to explain to Nanda Baba. So this Katha, of course, as you can see, is very deep, very philosophical, very benefiting if we look at it in details. We'll stop there for today, however, but I hope and pray that the same benefits that Govardhan, the same nourishment that it has brought, to all the same protection it has brought, by Krishna lifting it with his left hand, a small finger, to protect all residents of Ayodhya, of Braj, that is same protection by you doing your worship today to Sri Krishna, that the same level of protection he would bring to you and your families. The same joy you can have by keeping Govardhan, Krishna as Govardhan in the mind, because Vardhan means to nourish. That you'll constantly have the nourishment of God's grace in your lives every day, in the same way that the residents of Braj enjoyed. We want to stop there today. Before we close, let's group our voices together as we sing a short bhajan to Govardhan Bhagavan. Please group your voices together. I think we have the lyrics available. श्री गोवर्धन महाराज टोपे तेरे माते मुकुट विराज रह्यो। श्री गोवर्धन महाराज तेरे माते मुकुट विराज रहे हो, माते मुकुट विराज रहे। श्री गोवर्धन महाराज तेरे माते मुकुट विराज रहे हो, माते मुकुट विराज रहे। तेरे पान चरे तेरे फूल चरे, तेरे पान चरे तेरे फूल चरे। तोपे चढ़े दूध की धार तेरे माथे मुकुट विराज रहे हो, माथे मुकुट विराज रहे। श्री गोवर्धन महाराज तेरे माथे मुकुट विराज रहे हो, माथे मुकुट विराज रहे। तेरे 7 कोस की परिक्रमा, तेरे 7 कोस की परिक्रमा, तेरे 7 कोस की परिक्रमा, तेरे 7 कोस की परिक्रमा। चकलेश्वर है विश्राम तेरे माथे मुकुट विराज रहे हो, माथे मुकुट विराज रहे। श्री गोवर्धन महाराज तेरे माथे विराज रहे, तेरे माथे मुकुट विराज रहे। तेरे गले में कंठा साज रहो, तेरे गले में कंठा साज रहो। टोपी पे हीरा लाल तेरे माथे मुकुट विराज रहे हो, माथे मुकुट विराज रहे। श्री गोवर्धन महाराज तेरे माथे मुकुट विराज रहे हो, माथे मुकुट विराज रहे। तेरे कानन कुंडल चमक रहो, तेरे कानन कुंडल चमक रहो, तेरे कानन कुंडल चमक रहो, तेरे कानन कुंडल चमक रहो। तेरे झांकी बनी विशाल तेरे माथे मुकुट विराज रहे हो, माथे मुकुट विराज लगाइए। श्री गोवर्धन महाराज तेरे माथे मुकुट विराज रहे हो, 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 माथे मुकुट विराज रहे। गिरिराज महाराज की जय।